Hey guys, tonight we drift back, way back. You're standing barefoot on the skin of a very different planet, under a sky, without cities, without satellites, without sound. The stars twinkle harder here. The moon looks just a little closer. And beneath your feet, just one giant landmass Pangaea. No countries, no continents, just one lonely supercontinent, holding everything together like a jigsaw puzzle that hasn't shattered yet. You take a few careful steps. The ground is cracked and dry in places, lush and swampy in others. Giant ferns nod lazily in the breeze. Towering dragonflies buzz past like tiny helicopters. Far off, a chorus of croaks and chitters hint at something watching from the dark underbrush. You haven't even made it 5 steps, and already something wants to eat you. Welcome to your prehistoric lullaby. You breathe in. The air is thick richer in oxygen than modern lungs are used to. It tickles. You cough a little, and somewhere nearby something very large shifts in the trees. Now, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from anywhere in the world, drop your location and your local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy little journey travels. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk alone, but not really. All around you is the pulse of an ancient planet, dreaming itself into form. Pangaea stretches unimaginably far in every direction, stitched together from the drifting cratons of even earlier ages. To your left, rocky highlands jut up like bones. To your right, a thick jungle wall rises full of leaves as big as bedsheets. There are no familiar animals here. No dogs barking, no birds calling your name from trees. But the silence is not silence. There's the hiss of wind through conifer needles, the drip of ancient fog onto moss-covered roots, the occasional screech of some distant, unseen insectoid horror. You crouch beside a stream swirling with mica-flecked silt and stare at a fish that looks unfinished. It has no jaw, just a round sucking hole for a mouth. It drifts lazily between strands of algae, unaware that it's going to be one of Earth's first victims in an extinction story billions of years in the making. Historians still argue whether Pangaea's assembly made life harder or easier. On one hand, less coastline meant fewer shallow sea environments, prime real estate for marine diversity. On the other hand, life had a vast, stable stage on which to evolve strange experiments. You lucky dreamer are walking across one of those experiments right now. The soil here is soft dark, full of ancient rot. You push through a grove of tree-sized horsetail plants that today are barely weeds. Their stems are hollow, their segments click under your fingers. Somewhere above, the sun filters through in warm, sticky beams. Your arms glisten. You haven't sweat this much in a long time. Oh, and don't trip over that giant millipede. It's the size of a dachshund and twice as confident. You walk for what feels like hours, though it might only be minutes. The gravity of Dreamtime is weird like that. The landscape changes around you. Forests become floodplains. Red dust coats your feet. You step onto a stretch of open desert. Baked and cracked the sky above, shimmering with rising heat. This part of Pangaea is still forming, ripped by earthquakes, blistered by ancient sunlight. It feels unfinished. A breeze kicks up. It smells like salt and sulfur. In the distance, you see mountains beginning to rumble. That's for later. For now, you just sit on a high rock and watch a world in slow motion. Life is still building itself, stacking evolutionary bricks with curious patience. The funny thing is, for all its scale and drama, Pangaea was temporary. One chapter in Earth's long novel. But what a chapter! It brought species together, mixed oceans, sparked extinctions, ended others, and it made life sprawl like ivy across a single giant canvas. You look up. The stars are still there but subtly off. No North Star. No Orion's belt. Just a dizzying sweep of points and patterns ancient beyond memory. You let out a slow breath. Somewhere out there in your real bed, in your real room, your body is still. But here on the back of a dreaming world, you are moving through a story written in basalt and bone. And no, you probably won't survive this. Not because you'll be eaten, though let's be honest, you might. But because life on Pangaea is constantly dancing at the edge of catastrophe. Oxygen levels will dip. Volcanoes will belch soot. Oceans will stutter and burp up methane. The things that survive will surprise you, and the things that don't will break your heart. Like that little lizardy thing peeking at you now. Big eyes, featherish proto-fur, a nervous wiggle in its hips. You lock eyes for just a second. Then it darts into the underbrush as if it knows what's coming. But we'll get to that. For now, you rest. Your feet in the dirt. Your ears full of ancient wind. The soft thump-thump of the planet's early heartbeat surrounding you like a blanket. Because tonight, dreamer, you're not just watching history. You're walking through the first breath of extinction. You're weightless now, floating, drifting above a vast, endless blue. It stretches farther than any modern ocean you've ever seen. This is Earth before the continents split, and here, oceans don't have names yet. No Atlantic, no Pacific. Just one titanic body of water surrounding Pangaea, like a watery cradle Panthalassa. The sky above you is startlingly clear until it isn't. A low haze ripples across the horizon. You descend slow and dream heavy into the shallows of a prehistoric sea, one that existed long before coral reefs as we know them. The water is warm, almost bath-like, and as your feet touch the silty bottom, you see life wriggling in every direction. Small armored trilobites shuffle sideways across the seafloor like confused beetles. Tiny jawless fish wriggle near you in clouds, their movements somehow uncertain, as if evolution hasn't quite finished drafting their blueprints. Some have plates for heads, some have skin like jelly. No teeth, no jaws, just gaping circular mouths, like suction cups looking for snacks. You kneel in the water and scoop one into your hand. It doesn't resist. It simply pulses gently in your palm, as if unsure whether you're predator god or just a passing ripple in the current. These are the early stars of the Devonian, the age of fishes. It's a boom time for marine evolution. New species are popping up like weird bubbles in a soda can. Spiny sharks, armored placoderms, reef-building stromatoporoids. Try saying that 5 times fast. And plenty of critters that look like they're the halfway point between worm and nightmare. The reefs you swim through aren't like the tropical ones you might have seen on documentaries. No coral fans here. These are spongy, dome-like reef mounds made from microbial communities and simple calcified creatures. And they stretch for miles. You brush your hand along one as you drift. It feels alive, but not in a cuddly way, like a brain that forgot it had a body. Historians still argue whether Devonian reefs collapsed slowly or were abruptly erased by rapid climate changes and plummeting sea levels. But either way, things don't end well for these quiet underwater neighborhoods. For now, though, they thrive, layered like a stack of soggy pancakes beneath the sun-dappled waves. You roll onto your back and float. Overhead, strange fish leap from the surface. Some have fins that look suspiciously like legs. A few even shuffle onto nearby tidal flats for a breath of air before flopping back. You can practically hear evolution whispering. Just a bit more. Almost there. One breaks the surface beside you a tiktaalik. Broad-headed, flat. Its fins curl slightly like proto-wrists. It blinks as if surprised by its own existence, then disappears beneath the water again. It's not a fish. It's not yet a land animal. It's something in between. And that in between will matter a lot when things start going wrong. Because spoiler alert, this peaceful ocean scene is about to go sideways. At first, you don't notice it. The water's still warm. The reef still hums faintly with the busy traffic of ancient sea life. But deeper down, far below your floating dream body, something begins to shift. The oxygen is disappearing, slowly, quietly, like someone turning the dial down on life itself. The deeper layers of the ocean, usually rich with oxygen and nutrients, begin to suffocate. The cause, still debated. Could be volcanic activity triggering a greenhouse effect. Could be nutrient overflow from too many plankton blooms. Could be massive weathering from the rising Appalachian Mountains, throwing off the delicate balance of carbon and sulfur in the water. But one thing's certain, the seas start turning into poison. A low, sulfurous fog curls along the surface. You cough. The air smells like rotten eggs. Bacteria that thrive in anoxic, oxygen-free conditions explode in number. The water turns a sickly, greenish-black in places. Dead zones spread like bruises across the map. Massive fish begin floating belly up. Trilobites go still. Entire reef systems bleach and break apart. It's not dramatic. Not a movie-style apocalypse. Just a slow, unrelenting fade-out. Welcome to one of Earth's first mass extinctions, the late Devonian extinction, somewhere around 375 million years ago. It won't be as big as the Permian extinction later, but it still erases about 75% of marine species. And unlike a big asteroid impact, this one drags out over several million years. It's not one punch, it's a slow drowning. You swim to shore and pull yourself onto a muddy beach, dripping and dazed. Above you, storm clouds gather. Lightning flashes. Somewhere behind the hills, a volcano belches smoke into the sky, quietly hinting at what's to come in Earth's next act. But even now, in this ancient loss, you see survivors. A pair of tetrapods, four-limbed creatures, shuffle through the ferns behind you. Clumsy squat, still learning how gravity works. But they're trying. Their lungs are shallow. Their skin dries out fast. But they are technically walking. And that means Earth is beginning to experiment with life on land. You glance back at the sea one last time. The reefs are dying. The fish are fading. But in the distance, a soft green glow stretches across the wet soil mosses, liverworts, maybe even the earliest ferns. The ocean may be choking, but the land is just waking up, and so are its dreams. You don't walk into this next part of the story. You stumble into it, half choking on ash blinking against a sky that doesn't know how to be blue anymore. The air is thick, heavy, and smells like a barbecue gone terribly wrong. Above you, volcanic plumes coil upward, like black tornadoes, blotting out the sun. This isn't just any eruption. This is the eruption. You're standing in the early Permian period, somewhere around 252 million years ago. And beneath your feet, the Earth is coming undone. The Siberian traps, one of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history, have begun to crack open the crust. Not one dramatic mountaintop explosion, but thousands of eruptions over thousands of years, spilling enough lava to cover the entire United States. Multiple times. Think of it less like a fireworks show and more like Earth's internal plumbing finally bursting. You take a few steps and your boots crunch on scorched rock. Trees, once lush and tall, now resemble a blackened ribcage of trunks. Charcoal dust sifts down from the sky like dry snow. You look up and instantly regret it. The clouds above you are angry and veined with red. Somewhere in the distance, lightning dances from cloud to ground in frantic stabs. You probably won't survive this one either. But let's not panic, let's walk. You pass by the skeleton of a Glossopteris tree. Its once white leaves now scattered like burnt paper. This was a dominant tree species in Gondwana, the southern half of Pangaea, and its sudden disappearance marks just one of the botanical tragedies of this era. The real trouble, though, isn't just what's burning, it's what's leaking. Volcanic activity releases more than lava. It pumps carbon dioxide into the atmosphere like a cosmic factory gone rogue. As the gas accumulates, global temperatures spike, rainforests dry out, ice caps melt, ocean currents falter, and the oceans, oh, they're having a really bad time. Historians still argue whether the trigger for this particular extinction was carbon methane, hydrogen sulfide, or all of the above. But what's certain is this Earth gets hot, really hot, like egg frying on a rock hot. You sit on a ledge, wiping sweat from your brow, and gaze out over what used to be a vast inland sea. It's now a salty, shallow wasteland, cracked like old pottery. No breeze, no bird calls, just the far-off rumble of another eruption, and the occasional eerie splash of something struggling to survive in evaporating water. Below the surface, oxygen levels plummet. Ocean life suffocates. Coral reefs collapse. Trilobites, those once ubiquitous sea bugs, disappear completely. Brachiopods, crinoids, and shelled cephalopods vanish too. It's not just extinction, it's the Great Dying. Roughly 90% of marine species and 70% of land species wink out forever. Gone. Just gone. As if someone hit a reset button and then smashed the console. You trudge onward. The forests are silent. Amphibians that once croaked and swam along riverbanks are now still. Reptiles lay motionless in shallow pits, heat-struck and gasping. And here's the ironic twist. Some of the creatures that survive this hellscape are the least glamorous. Fungus, for instance, makes a massive comeback. With so many dead things to decompose, fungal spores thrive, spreading like fine ash across the planet. In fact, fossil records from this time show a sudden spike in fungal presence. Like the world itself became a giant compost heap. You pass one of these fungal blooms, growing in the remains of a toppled log. It pulses faintly soft and white, like the ghost of a forest. You could almost laugh if it wasn't so quietly horrifying. And the worst part, this whole mass extinction likely didn't happen all at once. It seems to have played out in waves, multiple pulses of disaster separated by millennia. Enough time for nature to almost recover, before being kicked back down again. Kind of like trying to stand up in the surf only to get smacked in the face by yet another wave. That's what makes this extinction different. It's not sudden like an asteroid. It's slow, crushing, relentless. You reach a high ridge and look down at what should be a vibrant green basin. Instead, you see cracked mud, a scorched brush, and the slow creep of lava at the far horizon. The air wavers with heat. Somewhere, a single lizard-like creature drags itself through the dust. It pauses, looks up at you. Its eyes are dull, but it's alive. Somehow. That's the thing about life, it's annoyingly persistent. Even when Earth seems to be doing everything in its power to press delete, a few stubborn lineages cling on. A tiny burrowing synapsid here, a heat-tolerant insect there, and somewhere far from your dream self, deep in an underground burrow, a proto-mammal huddles, heartbeat slow, waiting it out. You sit beside a cold stream that barely flows. The sun finally sets, turning the smoky sky into a bruised purple. And in this eerie twilight, Earth holds its breath. When the Permian period ends, a staggering portion of life is gone, but not all. And that's enough, because tomorrow the Triassic begins, and with it a strange, bold experiment in rebuilding a broken world. The air is damp now. It smells like wet leaves, thick mud, and something ancient that's trying to grow again. You're ankle deep in a swamp, a proper full-bodied, squelch when you step kind of swamp. Ferns tower overhead. Trees rise like green scaffolding toward the sky. It's the Carboniferous period about 300 million years ago, and Earth is feeling bold again. You blink through humid air. Fireflies, huge ones, blink lazily around your head. The buzzing is constant but oddly soothing. It's nighttime here and the whole forest is alive, with sounds that never quite resolve into a melody. Your boots are soaked already, but it's fine. You're not really here, just dreamwalking through the past again. The Carboniferous swamps are bursting with life, especially in the plant department. Club mosses, horsetails, and giant ferns dominate this low-lying, oxygen-rich world. Some of the trees around you are over 100 feet tall and don't even have proper wood. Just tubes of soft tissue, reinforced with bark. The air feels thick. With all this plant life photosynthesizing like there's no tomorrow, the oxygen level is over 30%. Every breath feels like a jolt of electricity. And it's not just the trees enjoying it. You duck suddenly as a dragonfly the size of a crow buzzes past your head like a tiny stealth bomber. Meganura, one of the largest insects to ever live. Its wings shimmer like stained glass. You watch it land on a branch and preen its antennae like a cat washing its face. In this world, arthropods rule. Centipedes longer than your arm crawl through the underbrush. Millipedes, thicker than soda cans, coil in the leaf litter. Everything is scaled up. Even the ants, if they exist at all, are the kind of thing you don't want in your picnic basket. And yet, despite all this lushness, this is the calm before a very weird storm. You follow a path between two mossy boulders and hear the low croak of an amphibian. A big one. It lumbers out of the shadows, half salamander, half grotesque. Child's drawing. Limbs like oars. Head wide and flat like a dinner plate. It regards you with bulbous, expressionless eyes, then slides back into the water with a wet sigh. These swampy creatures are the dominant vertebrates of their day. Frogs, lizards, and even some early reptilian forms are beginning to evolve. But amphibians still run the show, until they don't. Because while this period gave Earth its coal, its forests, and its super-oxygenated skies, it also planted the seeds of disaster. Quite literally, the plants here grew fast and died faster. Their bodies piled up in layers, eventually forming thick peat bogs. But deep in those wet, stagnant swamps, their decay slowed way down. Instead of rotting, they compacted, and as the millennia passed, they became coal. Tons of it. Historians still argue whether the Carboniferous extinction was driven by climate change, falling sea levels, or a sudden drop in atmospheric oxygen due to plant evolution stabilizing. But the evidence is clear: something upset the swamp. You pass through a clearing where the trees are all toppled, lying like enormous corpses. A foul smell rises from the black muck beneath them. Rain falls suddenly warm and sticky and the soil lets out a gasp of methane. Here's a fun fringe tidbit. Some researchers believe that the first great extinction event on land might have been triggered by a fungus. That's right, not an asteroid, not a volcano, a mold. Prototaxids, a towering fungal organism that predated trees, was thought to loom over the Carboniferous landscape before vanishing. Its resurgence, or something like it, may have tipped the ecosystem over the edge. Too much rot, not enough rebirth. You pause beside a fallen log, noticing a strange, white growth crawling along its surface like slow frost. It twitches. You decide not to touch it. Meanwhile, the earth starts cooling. You walk higher now up a misty slope, where the temperature has dropped just enough to make you wrap your dream arms around yourself. Glaciers begin to expand at the poles. Sea levels fall. Swamps dry out. Amphibians find themselves cut off from their watery homes. And the oversized bugs' oxygen levels fall and they shrink. They shrink hard. It's like the whole world hit a reverse switch. The supercontinent of Pangaea, still assembling itself, stretches the climate to its limits. Coastal swamps give way to vast interior deserts. Weather becomes extreme. Rain doesn't come when it's needed, and when it does, it floods. You cross a dry, cracked patch of forest floor where once a river flowed. Skeletons lie beneath the soil, pressed flat into ancient strata. Fossils in waiting. A stillness takes over. This extinction wasn't as dramatic as some of the others. No firestorms or cosmic impacts. Just a quiet unspooling. Species vanish without drama. Amphibians drop out. Entire insect families blink away. Reptiles with thicker skin and stronger lungs begin to take over. And as you step through a grove of stunted trees, clinging to the cooling earth, you realize something's shifted. The rules are changing. The new survivors aren't soft. They don't need puddles or fog. They can live in dry air, bury themselves in sand, and hiss at a sunset like it owes them money. The age of amphibians has ended. And slowly, cautiously, the age of reptiles creeps in. You lie back on a bed of moss, watching the clouds drift across the sky like slow giants. Somewhere out there, the coal swamps still smolder in memory. 1 trillion tons of plant ghosts waiting to be dug up one day and burned again by very curious apes. But not tonight. Tonight, the wind is cool. The forest is quiet. And you sleepy time traveler are wrapped in the soft lull of a world both dying and becoming something new. The air begins to shimmer with heat again, wavy, sticky heat that curls your hair and makes the horizon look like it's melting. You're back in the late Permian period now, tiptoeing across the surface of a world that's entered its final phase. Before the curtain comes crashing down, you remember this place. The forests are thinner now. The ferns more wiry. Gone are the damp jungles of the Carboniferous. In their place, cracked soil, dusty wind, and shrubs that look like they've seen things. You press a hand to the ground. It's warm, too warm, and it stays warm at night. The breeze feels like someone opened an oven, just a little too close to your face. It's the result of what's been happening for thousands of years now. Those endless Siberian traps, still belching lava, still flooding the skies with CO2. Earth's fever isn't breaking, it's climbing. And the oceans, oh no, the oceans are absolutely losing it. You find yourself near the edge of an ancient shoreline where waves used to whisper in soft rhythms. But now the water is thick, dark, almost syrupy. You take one cautious step in and instantly regret it. Something about the water feels wrong. The temperature, for one, it's nearly body heat. And the smell. It's like a compost bin full of boiled eggs and wet coins. You step back. Beneath the surface, the oxygen's been disappearing. Global warming has created ocean anoxia, huge dead zones, where nothing can breathe. Marine life tries to swim away but finds only more poison. Fish open their mouths and gulp uselessly. Shellfish dissolve as acidic waters eat away at their homes. Coral reefs disintegrate, replaced by blank seascapes, where even algae seem hesitant to grow. Historians still argue whether the collapse of ocean circulation started with heat or if it was a feedback loop kicked off by volcanic gases, but either way, it's happening, and it's everywhere. You scan the horizon and spot a familiar shape, another eruption. The plume rises slowly, curling like black smoke from a giant candle that refuses to go out. A distant rumble follows it, and the ground gives a tired tremble beneath your feet. Here's the thing, Earth isn't just heating up. It's becoming toxic. Those volcanoes, they're releasing not only carbon dioxide, but also methane and sulfur dioxide. Methane, a greenhouse gas more potent than CO2, triggers runaway warming. And sulfur dioxide causes acid rain. Imagine a drizzle that slowly dissolves forests and kills lakes. Yeah, you might want to keep your hood up. But the worst offender of all, hydrogen sulfide gas. Yep, straight up death breath. It rises from the ocean's rotten belly and enters the atmosphere, poisonous to animals, damaging to the ozone layer. Some theories even suggest that this gas bleached the skies of UV protection, allowing solar radiation to further cook the surface. It's like Earth is running a "how bad can I make this experiment" in real time. You walk past the fossilized remains of a therocephalian, a mammal-like reptile with saber teeth and a perpetually concerned brow. It didn't make it. Few did. The numbers are staggering: over 90% of all marine species and around 70% of all land species gone. Welcome to the Great Dying. But amid all this death, there's one tiny comfort: the survivors. You crouch low and peek under a scorched log. There, nestled in the cool soil, is a tiny scuttling creature. Possibly a Lystrosaurus, one of the strangest and most successful survivors of this mass extinction. Imagine a pig crossed with a lizard with a face like a grumpy vacuum cleaner. It snuffles at the dirt eyes, blinking lazily. This little tank of a creature will go on to repopulate the Earth in astonishing numbers once the dust settles. It doesn't look impressive, but it doesn't need to. It's got lungs that work in thin air, a metabolism that doesn't mind the heat, and legs that can carry it long distances in search of food that doesn't exist anymore. And when every advantage disappears, sometimes persistence is all that's left. You sit down beside it, your shadow flickering in the red sunset light. Around you, the world crackles and hisses. The trees lean, like they're too tired to stand, and somewhere off in the distance, another chunk of the biosphere goes silent. But you're still here, still floating through the longest, darkest mass extinction Earth has ever known. One that didn't take a day, or a year, or even 100. This slow-motion catastrophe dragged itself across hundreds of thousands of years. A cosmic marathon of loss. And it left the planet changed. When the Permian ends, it takes with it nearly everything familiar. The trilobites, who had survived for 270 million years, finally tap out. Coral families that once ruled the reef collapse. Insects struggle. Amphibians nearly vanish. And whole forests turn to coal. You walk the cracked earth a little longer, and then somewhere on the edge of the dream, a breeze picks up. A different breeze, lighter, cooler. Carried on it is the faintest sound of life. A call, a chirp, a rustle. It's the wind of recovery. The age of dinosaurs is still far off. But deep in the fossil dust, new patterns are forming. Species are regrouping. The earth, scorched and bruised, is ready to try again. And you breathe deep, letting the scent of rebirth wash over you. Because even after fire, silence, and death, life always, always finds a way to whisper back. You wake up on cracked red soil. The air is thinner now, dry and bitter at the edges. There's no lush forest to greet you. No dragonfly squadrons humming above your head. Just silence, a few spindly shrubs, and a creature staring at you like you don't belong here. It's got short, chunky legs, a squat body, and tusks that stick out like it lost a bar fight with a tree. You stare at it. It stares at you. No one moves. Welcome to the world of the therapsids. These aren't dinosaurs. Not yet. These are their weird, warm-blooded cousins, the mammal-like reptiles. And for a while, they were kind of a big deal. You watched the tusked one, probably a Decenodon, shuffle off through the dust like a heat-struck bulldog. Despite the heat and emptiness, it looks confident. Like it knows this desert belongs to it now. This is the early Triassic period, and you're walking in a post-apocalyptic Earth. After the Great Dying wiped out almost everything, the few remaining life forms had one job: adapt or don't bother. The survivors of the Permian extinction weren't the sleekest or the strongest. They were the stubborn ones. And the therapsids. Oh, they were stubborn. They breathed like mammals, walked with legs beneath their bodies instead of sprawled out like lizards. Some even had whiskers hinting at fur. They were like Earth's first attempt at mammals' experimental prototypes that would eventually lead to, well, you. But don't get too attached, because their reign doesn't last long. Historians still argue whether the therapsids were truly on the verge of dominance or whether they were already outclassed by other evolving groups. But what's clear is that they had their moment. A glorious, dusty, heat-soaked moment. You walk across the sun-bleached plain. The landscape feels stretched, too wide, too quiet. Pangaea's giant size means this interior landmass gets very little rain. Without nearby oceans to regulate climate, you're either freezing at night or roasting by noon. Right now, it's the roasting part. And still, life pushes forward. You spot a pack of smaller therapsids, maybe cynodons, skittering between rocks. They're fast, sleek with alert eyes, and bodies that twitch with too much energy. One pauses and sniffs the air. It sees you but doesn't flee. Then it chirps, yes chirps, and vanishes into a burrow. These little guys, they'll make it. They're the ancestors of mammals. Right now, they live underground to avoid the heat. They breathe more efficiently than their reptilian cousins. They nurture their young longer. They even might have fur. And one day, tens of millions of years from now, they'll walk on two legs and invent air fryers. But that's a long, long nap from now. You sit beneath a crooked tree, the shade barely cooler than the sun. A few insects drone lazily by. The air smells like hot dust and patience. This new Earth is empty in places it didn't used to be. The oceans are still healing, the reefs just beginning to reassemble. On land, ecosystems are simpler, fewer players, fewer rules. That makes room for innovation. You hear a low grunt and glance behind you. Uh-oh, it's not a therapsid. It's a reptile, a big one. Archosaur, maybe. Long legs, crocodile-like snout. The kind of predator that doesn't blink before it bites. It locks eyes with you for a second. Then, thankfully, it turns and trots away. These reptiles, once the underdogs of the Permian, are now climbing the ranks. Fast, upright walkers. Tough scales. Better suited to the dry heat than their therapsid neighbors. They're evolving quickly, diversifying into niches the post-extinction world left wide open. And their time is coming. Soon, they'll branch into crocodilians and of course dinosaurs. But for now, you're still in therapsid territory, and it's a weird experimental world. You pass a stream barely a trickle through the dust, and spot a strange creature soaking in the mud. Its body is round, almost toad-like, but with scales and a wide permanent frown. It's a survivor, too. No one knows exactly what to make of it. A weird little leftover from a time when anything that could breathe and hide had a shot. Here's a fun, slightly uncomfortable tidbit. During this recovery phase, Earth's biosphere was so stressed that it may have temporarily stopped producing complex ecosystems. Fossil evidence suggests that for millions of years, most of the planet's landscapes were occupied by simple, low-diversity faunas, just a handful of species repeated everywhere. Like nature ran out of creativity and started copying and pasting. Imagine walking from Russia to Argentina and seeing the exact same lizards the whole way. That's how weirdly uniform life was. And yet, here and there, signs of rebirth. You crouch by a patch of scrub and find tiny green shoots poking up through the dry soil. Ferns, mosses, the earliest seed plants returning to lay claim to the scarred earth. Each one a flag planted for the future. You lie back on a sun-warmed rock, sweat sticking your shirt to your back. The sky above is cloudless and sharp. It feels like nothing is happening. But everything is. Because from this shattered world, two paths are forming, one toward cold-blooded reptiles, who'll rule the skies and plains, and another toward warm-blooded burrowers, who'll one day rule with spreadsheets and sarcasm. And you lucky sleeper are here, at the exact point when both futures start dreaming. You wake up face first in dust. It's fine. That's just how mornings work here in the early Triassic, a world still shaking off the ashes of extinction. You sit up slowly, brush off your dream elbows and squint at a landscape that looks like it forgot how to be green. The trees are trying. Sort of. A few wiry conifers jut from the red ground like forgotten coat racks. Scrubby little plants huddle in cracks, and gullies clinging to whatever moisture they can find. The sky is pale and wide. It feels like a world caught mid-reboot, half-loading spinning wheel of life still turning. You're wandering through Earth's ultimate underdog story. Because while the Permian extinction wiped the biosphere, almost clean this period, this quiet, crunchy, awkward Triassic is where things start crawling back. And not with a bang, with a shuffle. At your feet, a squat creature with a flat face and stubby tail waddles across the rock. It's got the look of someone who never quite got over a bad haircut. This is Lystrosaurus. And if it had a catchphrase, it'd be, "I'm still here, suckers." Because somehow this tusked little tank made it through the Great Dying and decided it was going to dominate. For millions of years after the extinction, Lystrosaurus is everywhere. Fossil of this guy turn up from South Africa to Antarctica to China. Think of it as the world's first true road trip champion. Why did it survive? Well, historians still argue. Maybe it had a generalist diet. Maybe it burrowed underground to escape the worst of the climate chaos. Or maybe it just got incredibly lucky. Whatever the reason, this strange beast becomes the default setting for life on land for a while. It's kind of adorable, in an awkward bulldog meets vacuum cleaner kind of way. You walk past a group of them rooting around in the dirt, snuffling through dry grass and grumbling softly to one another. There's not much else here to compete with them. Yet, the Triassic landscape is full of weird possibilities. You wander down a slope into what used to be a riverbed. Now it's cracked and dry with just a trickle of water snaking between polished stones. A shadow flits across the ground. You look up. Nothing. But something's watching you. From the ridge above, a different kind of survivor appears. Slimmer, more upright, long tail, eyes like polished amber. It's an early archosaur, the group that will give rise to crocodiles, pterosaurs, and dinosaurs. It watches you for a moment, tongue flicking over its snout, then disappears behind a boulder with unsettling speed. These guys are the rising stars of the Triassic. While the therapsids, those mammal-like reptiles, struggle to recover in this unpredictable climate, archosaurs are innovating. Quickly, they run faster, breathe better. Some of them start experimenting with flight. Others grow teeth like steak knives and develop complex gait patterns that make them very effective predators. You might want to keep moving. As you trudge across the broken terrain, you spot another oddity, tall, upright sphenodonts and rhynchosaurs creatures that look like evolutionary doodles. Their body plans are strange, as if evolution is still throwing ideas at the wall to see what sticks. You crouch near a rock and watch one of them nibble a spiky leaf with the caution of someone trying wasabi for the first time. This strange transitional world doesn't feel like much, but it's the beginning of something huge. You pass a muddy depression and find a scatter of footprints, 3 toes, clawed, evenly spaced. Not therapsid, not Lystrosaurus, something faster. This is the mark of a theropod, one of the early dinosaurs. They're small now, chicken-sized, maybe a little bigger, but give them a few million years. That trail of prints you're looking at, it's the ancestral echo of T-Rex. No pressure. Here's the fun part. Earth is still unstable. Volcanoes are active. The climate keeps swinging between too hot and too cold. Seas flood and then vanish. There's no consistency. And that's exactly what makes this such a fertile playground for evolution. Historians still argue about how quickly biodiversity returned after the extinction, but one theory suggests it took over 10 million years before ecosystems regained anything like complexity. That's a long, quiet climb. And yet it happens. Life doesn't just bounce back, it rebuilds. Differently, you climb a rocky outcrop and look over a broad plain. Below, scattered in the scrub, are clusters of creatures unlike anything you've seen so far. Early flying insects flit among the ferns. Primitive turtles lumber across dry sand. Small, fast reptiles dart between shadows. It's like watching a time-lapse video of Earth inventing itself again. One quirky theory says the lack of competition actually encouraged the wild diversity of the Triassic. With so many ecological roles empty, weird creatures could try bold new strategies without immediately being eaten. It's chaos, but the creative kind. You settle on a rock as the day ends. The sun sets in slow layers. Deep orange, smoky purple, fading blue. A wind moves across the land. Dry but not lifeless. In the distance, something lets out a screech that's not quite bird, not quite reptile. You think about chasing it, but decide against it. Let it have its moment. Because this is a rare moment in Earth's story. A blank page. A second chance. You lie back feeling the last rays of warmth on your face. Around you, the survivors of apocalypse beetles, reptiles, scrappy mammals are writing the next chapter. And you're just lucky enough to be reading it in real time. The ground is rumbling again, not in a small animal stomping by kind of way. More like a deep tectonic world-splitting yawn. You blink through the red haze of dawn and realize something's shifting beneath your feet. You're standing at the edge of a rift, a long, jagged scar in the middle of the supercontinent. Pangaea, the once mighty jigsaw puzzle of all Earth's land, is starting to crack. Slowly, reluctantly, but definitely, the Triassic period is ending. And it's not going quietly. The air smells of heat and minerals. It's dry again, but charged like the feeling before a thunderstorm, only stretched across entire continents. The landscape around you is cracked and tilted, and somewhere in the far distance, magma glows faintly from a fresh fissure. This is the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, just a fancy name for one of the most powerful and least talked about extinction triggers in history. It's a zone of massive volcanic activity, stretching through what will become North America, South America, and Africa. And right now, it's warming up. You sit down on a boulder. It's vibrating slightly. Not ideal. But don't worry, you're a dreamer. You'll survive this with all your limbs intact. Probably. You look out over a plain where the first dinosaurs are beginning to stretch their legs. Literally. They're still small, still outnumbered, but they're gaining ground. Lean theropods chase small prey through fern thickets. Sauropodomorphs' early longnecks trudge past, like weird giraffes still figuring out their posture. And over there lurking in the mud is a different kind of powerhouse, an early crocodile relative. It's not the squat swamp ambusher you know today. This thing walks on long, straight legs. Upright, fast, sharp teeth, cold eyes. It's like a murder lizard in business casual. These are the Crurotarsans, the dominant predators of late Triassic Earth. They outnumber the early dinosaurs. They outcompete them. In fact, for a while, it looks like Crockin might take over the planet. But then, lava happens. Lots of it. The Atlantic Rift Zone begins to roar. For tens of thousands of years, massive basalt floods pour from the Earth's crust, painting the landscape with rivers of fire. The CO2 spikes again. So do methane levels. The atmosphere doesn't know what to do with itself. The oceans turn sluggish and acidic once more. Historians still argue how long the late Triassic extinction lasted. Some say tens of thousands of years, others argue over shorter pulses, but no one debates the impact. Over 75% of all species vanish. Crurotarsans, those almost dominant croc cousins, collapse. And that dream traveler is when the dinosaurs walk through the open door. You stand up and watch as the survivors step into the silence. Light-bodied theropods, plant-eating prosauropods, early armored ankylosaurs, clanking through the brush like prehistoric tanks. They're quick, adaptable, ready, not because they were better fighters necessarily, but because when the war melts down, being lucky and light on your feet suddenly becomes a winning strategy. You trail a group of Chalophyses as they flit through a dry riverbed. They're small, maybe the size of a large dog, with thin necks and twitchy movements. Their bones are hollow. Their eyes are sharp. And they're learning how to hunt in packs. They're not majestic yet, but give them time. You find a safe ledge and settle in as Earth quietly reorganizes itself again. The trees shift, subtly more conifers now, less tropical sprawl. Insects return to rebuild their tiny empires. Mammal ancestors still scurry in the shadows, quietly waiting for a different ending. And the dinosaurs, they grow fast. In the ecological vacuum left behind by the extinction, these creatures stretch, evolve, and diversify like wildfire. Within a few million years, they will become enormous, ingenious, legendary. You hear a low rumble and glance skyward. More smoke, more ash, more tectonic tantrums. But the worst is over, for now. Because as the Triassic fades and the Jurassic begins, life surges forward again. And the age of dinosaurs doesn't just arrive, it explodes. Here's a quirky little aside. Some paleontologists think the very shape of dinosaur hips, yeah, hips gave them a leg up. Their upright posture made them more efficient walkers and runners than their sprawling-legged rivals. So basically, dinosaurs won because they were better at strutting. You watch one such dinosaur, a wiry little biped with bright stripes, strut its way across the landscape, tail held high for balance claws, flexing like it knows it's cool. It pauses at the edge of a stream, tilts its head at you, and lets out a sound somewhere between a squeak and a trumpet. You nod. It blinks and trots away. In the silence that follows, you feel the entire planet take a deep, shaky breath. The lava flows cool, the dust begins to settle, and across the broken skin of Pangaea, the dinosaurs rise like a new idea. You smile. Not because this story is peaceful now, it's not, but because you know the next dream is going to be loud. It's midnight in the Jurassic. You open your eyes beneath a canopy of towering conifers, their needle-laced branches creaking ever so slightly in the wind. Mist curls low around your ankles like a sleepy cat. Somewhere in the distance, water drips rhythmically from fern tips, and a soft insect chorus hums through the trees like a lullaby composed by crickets and tiny prehistoric bagpipes. You've entered the quiet middle chapter of the dinosaur saga. And oh, how it dreams! This is a world remade. Earth has finally caught its breath after the Triassic upheaval. Pangaea is splitting more noticeably now, forming the seeds of the Atlantic Ocean, stretching and cracking as new continents slowly drift apart. That means more coastlines, more ecosystems, and more opportunities for life to do weird, bold things. And dinosaurs, oh, they take over. You walk slowly through the dense forest floor. Every few steps, the ground thuds slightly. Not from anything chasing you yet, but from the distant rhythmic footfalls of something very large, doing its best impression of a gentle earthquake. You pass under a low-hanging branch and see it, a long neck sweeping like a living crane, arm across the tree canopy. A sauropod, probably a Paleosaurus, twice the length of a bus and humming with quiet power. Its skin is slate gray, dappled with moss and old scars. It barely notices you as it pulls entire branches into its mouth with the grace of a hungry giraffe on stilts. You don't bother waving. It's far too busy being a continent with legs. The Jurassic is the age of the giants. Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, Camarasaurus, names you probably remember from childhood. And here they are gracing the treetops like they own the place. Because, well, they do. They can grow this big for a few reasons. Oxygen levels have stabilized. The climate is warm and steady and the vegetation is rich even if it's low nutrition. So their solution: eat all the time. Just never stop eating. Historians still argue whether sauropods had multi-chambered stomachs like cows, or relied on gigantic digestive tracts to slowly break down their leafy diet. Either way, if you're wondering what Jurassic Earth smells like, the answer is ferns and poop, lots of it. You slip quietly between their legs like a very nervous ant in a shopping mall. There's a kind of peaceful majesty here, interrupted only by the occasional thunderous sneeze or tail swish that could casually clear a forest. But not everything is gentle. You hear it before you see it, a high-pitched bark, followed by a rustle in the underbrush. You duck just in time as a pack of Dilophosaurus bursts through the greenery, heads bobbing, crests gleaming. They're built like hungry ballerinas, light on their feet, jaws lined with serrated teeth and zero patience. They chase a smaller dinosaur, something bird-like, and panicked, snapping and shrieking as they vanish into the shadows. You exhale and stand slowly. Welcome to the food chain. You walk through the undergrowth deeper into this primeval dream. Pangaea's continued breakup has caused rifts and seas to form, creating humid coastal areas and drier inland zones. The variation gives rise to niches, ecological sweet spots where life specializes. And the dinosaurs are specializing with gusto, armored ones like Stegosaurus, waddling around with their ridiculous tail spikes, and nervous brains the size of walnuts. Beak dinosaurs, nibbling ferns with the dedication of salad-obsessed horses. And yes, those early theropods, getting faster, smarter and slightly more suspicious of the sky. You pause, because you're hearing something strange, a whoomp 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 of beating wings. You look up just in time to catch a glimpse of pterosaurs gliding overhead. Their wings stretch white skin shimmering in moonlight crests, flashing brilliant orange. They don't flap much. Mostly, they soar using warm air rising from the volcanic lowlands to ride in lacy spirals over the forest. Contrary to popular confusion, these aren't birds. Not even close. They're flying reptiles. And some of them are massive. Imagine a giraffe with wings, with teeth, and mood swings. One dips low, skimming a lake's surface with its beak. Fish scatter. You follow its path with your eyes until it disappears over the treetops like a kite that forgot it was tied to physics. And speaking of birds, somewhere just barely audible through the hum of insects and dinosaurs snoring in their sleep, you hear it a chirp. A trilling call that sounds almost modern. You follow it and spot something half hidden in the underbrush. Feathers. Not full bird yet, but close. Some of the theropods in this era are sporting proto-feathers, maybe for warmth, maybe for display, maybe because evolution wanted to try accessorizing. You crouch. It watches you, one eye blinking slowly. You blink back. These feathered protobirds will eventually take to the skies. Eventually become robins, hawks, pigeons, and penguins. But right now, they're just learning what wings could do. You lean against the tree trunk, the bark flaking off under your fingers like ancient sunburn. The stars above twinkle harder now, reflected in the still water nearby. The air is warm but not stifling. You're safe for the moment. Here's a quirky fringe theory you might enjoy before dozing off. Some paleontologists think certain sauropods may have used their incredibly long necks not just for feeding but for whipping sounds, sort of like sonic booms to communicate across distances. Imagine the Earth's largest animals holding long-distance conversations by snapping their necks like bullwhips. You glance back at the one you passed earlier. It's standing very still now, listening, maybe. Or maybe it's just digesting 3 pine trees at once. You lie down in a soft bed of ferns, eyes fluttering closed as the Jurassic world hums around you. This is the calm before another storm. But for now, Earth is at its greenest, largest, most majestic. And you, curled in the crook of a dream, are breathing in the soft rhythm of giants. The ground shakes softly beneath you, rhythmic thuds like distant drums. And you instinctively press yourself lower into the ferns. Not out of fear, really. Just instinct. In this part of the Jurassic, being small and quiet is often a good idea. Above you, the forest canopy opens up into a wide clearing bathed in golden morning light. Dew shimmers on every leaf. The air smells like wet bark, sour fruit, and something vaguely sweaty. You blink up just in time to see a herd of stegosaurs waddling past, tails swinging in slow, hypnotic arcs. Their backplates gleam in the sunlight like dinner plates arranged by a particularly proud toddler. They grunt softly to one another, heads low, chewing their way through patches of ancient undergrowth. One pauses to scratch its belly against a boulder, sending lichen and bugs flying in every direction. You roll over watching from your cozy fern bed and wonder if they have dreams. Probably not. They don't seem like the philosophical type. But who knows? This is a world still ruled by the giants. But beneath their stomping feet, way beneath, it's getting crowded. You get up and walk quietly along a shaded trail, soft mud squelching under your steps. The deeper you go, the more you notice the background noise. Not from above, but below. Chitters, squeaks, the soft patting of paws. This is the hidden world of early mammals. You crouch near the base of a fallen log and peek underneath. There, a tiny creature darts across the shadows. It's shrew-like with soft brown fur, twitchy whiskers, and eyes that gleam with constant calculation. It's probably a Morganucodon or something similar. Think mouse, but smarter. You follow it for a bit as it scurries between leaf litter and fungi, nosing around for beetles. It pauses every few seconds to sniff the air and listen. Everything it does is tense, coiled, ready to sprint. Because above this little mammal is a world filled with things that want to eat it. But here's the twist, it's thriving anyway. You see, while the dinosaurs bask in sunlight and strut across the surface like celebrities, these early mammals live a life of quiet excellence underground. They've got warm blood, decent hearing, and sharp teeth for insects. Some may even nurse their young. Historians still debate whether Jurassic mammals were already starting to dream big or just surviving in the gaps between dino toes. But recent fossil finds show incredible diversity. Burrowers, climbers, gliders, and even fishers. They weren't just surviving. They were plotting. You wander deeper into this miniature kingdom, watching dozens of species flit, scuttle and hop between mossy roots and fungi-covered logs. Tiny teeth, complex molars, bones, designed for precision chewing. These guys aren't just waiting out the age of dinosaurs. They're building the blueprints for the next one. You pause to watch a glider, something like Volaticotherium, leap from a branch and coast gently down to another trunk. Its skin flaps stretch wide, its landing is graceful, and it disappears before a passing predator can spot it. It's like nature ran out of space on the surface and decided to reinvent innovation in the shadows. You lie down again, this time beneath a rocky overhang. From here, you can hear both worlds at once, the deep ponderous groaning of a sauropod grazing nearby, and the skittery, high-speed pattering of tiny feet. Above you, pterosaurs wheel and cry. Below you, something is nesting in a shallow burrow, cleaning its fur with tiny pink paws. Here's a strange, fun tidbit. Some early mammals had venom, like today's shrews and platypuses. Paleontologists have found grooved teeth and jaw structures that suggest some of these guys weren't just dodging danger, they were packing tiny chemical weapons. You peek into a crevice and see one such contender watching you. It blinks. You blink. It bares its teeth briefly, just enough to let you know who's in charge. You nod respectfully and move on. You eventually find yourself back on a rocky overlook. From here, the dinosaur world stretches wide and loud. You see herds moving slowly through valleys, predators prowling the tree line, birds, not quite birds yet, taking awkward hops into the air. But right behind you, tucked into every crevice and shadow, is the quieter revolution. The warm-blooded ones, the soft-furred ones, the ones with big eyes and bigger plans. Historians still argue about just how mammal-like these creatures were. Did they dream? Did they form family units? Did they recognize each other? But one thing's clear, they were everywhere, quietly feeling the cracks left by the big guys. And when the sky falls spoiler alert, they'll be ready. You sit for a while watching the sunset split the clouds in orange and gold. The air cools. The stegosaurs have wandered off. The chirps and squeaks begin to rise again as the underbrush comes alive. It's their time now, nighttime. You feel sleep tugging at you again gently like a cautious paw. And as your eyes drift shut beneath the branches, you realize something comforting. The giants might rule the world, but the future is sleeping in the roots. You wake up to silence, not the peaceful kind, the eerie kind, the kind that wraps around your ears like wool and makes you listen harder. The forest hasn't vanished. It's still here, full of tall cycads, tangled ferns and primitive conifers, but the usual thunder of giants is gone. No stomping, no distant roars. Not even a low, sleepy grunt from a lounging herbivore. You're in the late Cretaceous now. Something has shifted. The dinosaurs are still here, but the balance is changing. Fast. You start walking. The air is thick, humid, even more tropical than before. The continents have drifted further apart now, and that means ecosystems have become more specialized. Different shapes, different colors, different sounds. It's like nature has spent the last 20 million years going, okay, let's get weird with it. And it has. You wander into a forest clearing and freeze. Standing at the edge is a Tyrannosaurus rex. Yes, that one. It's bigger than you thought. Not Hollywood huge, but still colossal. Its skin is pebbled and dappled like a cross between a crocodile and a chicken. Its eyes are terrifyingly smart. You take a slow, shaky step back into the underbrush, holding your breath as it sniffs the air. It's not hunting right now. It yawns, huge toothy bored, and plots off into the trees. You don't move until the sound of its footsteps fades completely. Welcome to the top of the food chain. T-Rex isn't the only big predator here. There are also Dakota raptor, Tarbosaurus, and other monsters with sharp claws and a serious attitude problem, but there's something undeniably final about seeing it up close. Like watching the curtain close in slow motion. And all around, change is humming through the undergrowth. You crouch beside a small stream and watch a feathered creature, something like Troodon, dart between branches. It's small, bird-like, curious. Its eyes are too large for its head. It pauses to stare at you, tilting its head, like a child figuring out whether you're a snack or a statue. Here's the thing, some of these small theropods are practically birds already. Feathers for warmth, for display, maybe even for flight. Clawed wings, yes, but also hollow bones, keen eyesight, and possibly complex vocalizations. You realize you're looking at something that's half dinosaur, half future sparrow, and it's watching you right back. You hike a little higher into the hills. The landscape opens up, revealing broad plains, dotted with triceratops, herding quietly through knee-high grass. Their frills flash in the sunlight, their horns sweep through the air like polished spears. They grunt and rumble to one another, occasionally locking horns in lazy, half-hearted dominance games. You sit on a rock and watch. It's beautiful, but you feel it again. That silence, pressing at the edges of things. Because the story is almost over. You lie back and stare at the clouds. They drift slowly pink with sunset light. High above, a faint sparkle crosses the sky. Just for a second. You squint. Could have been a shooting star. Or maybe something else. Somewhere far across the world, a space rock is on its way. You sit up and look around. There's no panic here. The trees sway. The bugs buzz. Even the T-Rex is still napping somewhere. No one knows what's coming. But you do. Historians still argue about what happened in the final days of the Cretaceous. Did ecosystems collapse? Before the asteroid were volcanic eruptions in India. The Deccan traps already stressing life. Was the asteroid just the final kick in an already faltering world? Does it matter? Because from this point forward, time collapses. You're in a moment of almost too quiet, almost too still, almost too late. You walk through a nesting ground where hadrosaurs are tending to their young. Big, duck-billed creatures with gentle eyes and herding instincts like sheep. The adults hum to their eggs. The babies squawk and stumble and sniff your shoes like oversized ducklings with attitude. They don't know, but something deep in you does. You walk further into the forest until the canopy opens up into a field full of flowers. Yes, flowers. They're finally here. Not just ferns and conifers anymore. There are petals and bright colors and bees that look like armored pine cones. It's strange and beautiful, and it's about to be erased. Here's a fringe theory for your pocket. Some scientists believe mammals may have heard the asteroid impact before they felt it, subterranean vibrations moving faster than sound. Picture tiny fuzzy animals pausing, mid-sniff ears, twitching eyes wide. You look up at the sky. It's darkening. That sparkle is getting bigger, faster. You hear the first boom, distant, deep, like the earth is warning itself. You lie down in the tall grass, surrounded by chirps, footsteps, the last drum of a world unaware. And above you a light begins to fall. The sky is on fire, not metaphorically, not poetically, literally burning. A white-hot streak cuts across the upper atmosphere, leaving a tail of vapor and doom. You watch from the edge of a cliff heart, thudding in your dream chest as the Chicxulub asteroid plummets toward Earth. It's going to land on what will someday be the Yucatan Peninsula. Right now, it's just coastline and shallow sea. Calm, peaceful, blissfully unaware. Then impact. You don't hear it at first. You're too far away, but the light reaches you instantly. A pulse of brightness that floods the entire sky, casting no shadows, because there's nowhere left for darkness to hide. For a split second, it's like a second sun has arrived. Then comes the sound, a rolling, bellowing, wall-of-the-world detonation that hits your body like a shove from a giant hand. The ground leaps beneath you. Trees buckle, rocks tumble. The shockwave races outward, faster than any predator you've ever seen. You press yourself to the ground and wait. If you were a living creature in this moment, you'd probably be dead already. But lucky you, you're just a dream. You sit up slowly and look toward the south. A mushroom cloud rises on the horizon, miles high, already warping the weather. Fires bloom in every direction. The impact has instantly ignited forests across multiple continents. Charred leaves fall like snow. The wind howls with the scream of a world tearing itself open. This is the end of the Cretaceous, the end of the dinosaurs' reign, and the beginning of something entirely new. But not yet. First darkness. You follow the wind down into a valley. Animals are already panicking. Herds of triceratops are stampeding. A young T-Rex stumbles dazed. Birds, actual birds, now squawk and flutter disoriented in the smoke-thick air. In the swamps, amphibians dive deep, burrowing into mud. In caves, mammals press themselves into corners, ears, twitching hearts hammering. They don't know what's happening, but they know it's not good. And above all of it, the sky shifts. Within hours, clouds of ash and dust from the impact fires and vaporized rock begin to encircle the planet. The sun dims. The temperature drops. A global winter begins. Historians still debate the exact timeline of this collapse, days, weeks, or months. But the result is clear. No sunlight means no photosynthesis, no plants, no food, no future, unless you're underground, or underwater, or very, very lucky. You walk through a silent grove of scorched trees. Everything is gray. Ash falls in soft puffs. The air tastes metallic. It's hard to tell where land ends and sky begins. You stumble across a still living ankylosaurus, burned, limping, half blinded by dust. It lets out a low, mournful growl and collapses beside a smoldering log. You kneel beside it, one hand on its armor-plated back. It doesn't move again. You keep walking. What else can you do? You pass a river choked with debris. Dead fish float in eddies. Insects swarm in thick, desperate clouds. There are still survivors, but they're mostly the small ones. Insects, rodents, crocodilians, turtles. Creatures that can go without food for weeks, burrow for shelter, or eat literally anything. You watch a group of mammals, soft-furred, rat-sized, beady-eyed, ripping into the carcass of something you can't even identify anymore. They eat fast. No etiquette. No pause. Just survival. Because that's all that matters now. Here's a strange but true detail. Fossil evidence shows that ferns were everywhere after the asteroid hit. Paleobotanists call it the fern spike. With the forest gone and seeds buried, ferns were the first to recolonize the ash-covered Earth. Spore-driven, resilient, unbothered by sunlight or fire. Ferns, Earth's original comeback kids. You pause beside one such patch, bright green fronds unfurling through soot-black soil like tiny flags of defiance. In the distance, a faint glow lines the sky, not from the sun, but from lingering fires on the horizon. The actual sun hasn't shown its face for days now, maybe weeks. And that's the real killer. The cold creeps in. The plants die off. Herbivores starve. Predators follow soon after. The great chain of life, once roaring with energy and noise, slows to a crawl. Then a whisper. Then stillness. Roughly 75% of all life on Earth will vanish in this extinction event. Almost every dinosaur. Nearly all flying reptiles. Many birds. Whole classes of marine reptiles and ammonites gone. But not everything. You follow the dream path to a rocky burrow, near a stream that still trickles through the frost. Inside, a shivering, snuffling creature nurses its tiny young. Her eyes are alert. Her fur is singed but intact. She is not powerful or beautiful or famous. She is alive, and she is the future. You crouch at the edge of her world. She doesn't see you. Her entire focus is warm milk and the next heartbeat. This is what survival looks like. Not glamorous, not dramatic, just enduring. You step back into the frozen twilight. The wind howls low through broken trees. And as you look up into the dark sky, something flickers. A star. No, the sun. Just barely. A faint ghostly orb trying to push through the clouds of ash. Trying to come back, and beneath it the earth stirs, quietly. The sun returns like a forgotten memory. Not all at once, no dramatic curtain pull or orchestra swell. Just a slow, gray peeling back of the sky. Light filters through the ash like dust through old lace. You feel its warmth first, soft, weak, uncertain, spilling across your face as you wake on a cold, fern-covered hillside. The fires have died out. The winds are still. The silence that once felt apocalyptic now feels gentle. This is the Paleocene. It's been a few thousand years since the asteroid, and Earth is rebuilding. You sit up slowly. The landscape around you is almost unrecognizable. No dinosaurs. No thunderous footsteps or echoing bellows. The forests are starting to regrow, but they're young, awkward. Scrubby little trees. Wide, empty spaces between trunks. It looks like a park designed by someone who wasn't quite sure how forests are supposed to work. But here's the surprise, life is back. You walk down into a valley where green is returning in cautious shades. Small mammals dart between bushes, quick-footed, sleek, endlessly busy. One of them, a raccoon-sized furball with twitching ears and long fingers, scurries up a sapling and stares at you like you owe it money. You smile, because you recognize this moment. This is when mammals take the stage. They've been in the background for a long time, millions of years, hiding under leaves and logs, dodging tails and teeth. But now the spotlight is finally theirs. The age of dinosaurs has ended. The age of mammals begins. You follow a pack of early condylarths. Big hoofed things that look like halfway points between rodents and tiny deer. They snort and grunt softly, foraging among fallen branches. No horns, no claws, no armor. Just adaptability. And that, it turns out, is exactly what the world needs now. Historians still debate whether mammals rose quickly or cautiously. Fossil evidence shows a sudden burst of size and variety in some regions, almost like nature was making up for lost time. In less than 10 million years, mammals begin to spread, specialize, and in some cases, go big. You walk through a grassy clearing and find one of the first, large mammals, browsing among saplings. It's cow-sized but looks like a baked potato-shaped horse, with feet too big for its body. Its name, Coryphodon, a swamp-loving semi-aquatic herbivore, with a face like a sleepy bulldog. It snorts unimpressed and waddles into the water. The oceans, too, are shifting. With marine reptiles gone, new lineages begin to stir. Primitive whales, toothy birds, and rays with armor-plated grins fill the vacated seas. Coral reefs tentatively regrow and fish diversify with cautious optimism. And then there's the sky. You look up and see the descendants of the survivors, the true victors of the extinction. Birds. They flap and squawk through the trees, experimenting with size, shape, and sound. Some are tiny, buzzing through branches like flying buttons. Others soar wide across the horizon, silent shadows on the sunlit hills. One lands nearby. It looks like a pigeon crossed with a dinosaur. Beady eyes, clawed toes, and feathers that still remember their reptilian roots. It watches you, tilts its head, flaps twice, then poops on your shoe. Some things never change. You climb a rocky ridge as the sun grows stronger. The air is warming. Seasons are becoming more distinct. Weather is becoming a creative force again. Ice here, drought there, monsoons somewhere else. These changes shape landscapes, and landscapes shape life. From this height, you can see the world growing more complex. Marshes spreading, forests thickening, rivers twisting. You notice strange footprints pressed into the mud, some wide and flat, some narrow and clawed. The animals that made them are out of sight, but their signatures are everywhere. Mammals are diversifying rapidly, predators with teeth like scissors, grazers with odd-shaped skulls, diggers, climbers, lepers, and in the dirt beneath your feet, seeds. Not metaphorical ones, actual seeds. Angiosperms or flowering plants are taking over. Ferns and conifers still hang on, but the flowers are stealing the show now. Their colors, scents, and secret weapons fruit invite pollinators, bees, beetles, early butterflies. Here's a strange little nugget. Some scientists think the rise of flowering plants forced mammals to develop better senses like smell and color vision just to keep up with the changing dinner menu. Evolution by Bouquet. You find a patch of wildflowers growing at the base of a hill and crouch low, watching as a furry insect waddles across a petal dusted in pollen. It's clumsy, it buzzes. You root for it like it's your favorite underdog in a bee-themed sports movie. You stay there for a while, not because something dramatic is happening, but because something normal is. And after all that chaos, normal feels like a miracle. You lie on your back in a bed of moss, watching clouds drift lazily across a blue sky. A few birds chatter in the trees. The mammals rustle and snort nearby. The sun warms your face. There's a rhythm here, a pulse. Not the thunder of tyrannosaurs, not the silence of extinction, but the quiet murmur of life returning. Soft, steady, stubborn. You open your eyes to color. Bright greens, vibrant yellows, rust-colored leaves fluttering in the wind. The sky overhead is a hazy dream soft blue. Birds chirp and whistle, not as background noise, but as main characters. In this new chapter of Earth's long bedtime story, you're in the Eocene now, roughly 50 million years ago, and the world feels alive again, fully, comfortably, like it's finally gotten a full night's sleep after several mass extinctions and is now ready for brunch. The continents have drifted even farther apart. North America is its own thing now, with Europe across the Atlantic, Australia, floating off on its own little journey, and India casually slamming into Asia to begin the long, slow process of building the Himalayas. And with all this movement comes variety, coastlines, mountains, deserts, and jungles all swirling together to create the kind of biodiversity Earth hasn't seen since the age of the dinosaurs. You take a slow stroll through a steamy rainforest. Everything feels big. Not dinosaur big, but lush and oversized, like the world is stretching into itself again. Vines dangle across your path like jungle laundry. Leaves the size of couch cushions slap against your arms as you pass. And then from the trees above, a scream. A monkey. You look up, and yes, there's something bounding from branch to branch above you. Not quite monkey. Not quite anything familiar. Big eyes. Prehensile tail. A leap that seems to defy gravity. And good judgment. It yelps once more, then vanishes into the canopy. Primates are beginning to show off. You pause at the base of a massive fig tree and glance around. You're surrounded by mammals now. Not just burrowers and browsers, but true experiments in form. Massive flightless birds strut through the underbrush with beaks that say, "Don't test me." Hoofed creatures with elongated snouts graze in herds, their eyes darting constantly for predators. Rodents the size of dogs nibble at fallen fruit. And the predators, you hear them before you see them. A low growl followed by the soft thud of paw pads on wet soil. From behind a tree steps an Andrew's arcus. It's enormous wolf-shaped but pig-sized with a long snout and unsettlingly human-like eyes. It doesn't look at you. It's sniffing the air, tracking something smaller, hungrier, dumber. You wait. It growls again, then trots off tail swishing into the bushes. You exhale. The mammals are getting weirdly big now. And it's not just the land. You wander down to the edge of a vast estuary and blink at what looks like a nightmare mermaid. It's not. It's an early whale, Basilosaurus, long-bodied and fully aquatic, gliding through the shallow sea with slow, majestic power. No blowhole yet, no sleek dolphin grace, but it's a whale, and it's hunting. That's right, whales used to walk, And they've only recently decided to give that up for a life of tail-slapping, fish-chasing freedom. Historians still argue whether these early whales returned to the ocean in quick evolutionary bursts or slow creeping shifts over millions of years, but the result is the same Earth is remixing her greatest hits and aquatic mammals are headlining the B-side. You follow the coastline, marveling at how full everything feels. Food webs are complex again. There's a rhythm, a balance, a give and take that's been earned the hard way. But not everything is calm. Far off in the distance, you see a glimmer white peaks rising against the horizon. Mountains, new ones. India and Asia's tectonic tango has begun pushing up the first ridges of what will become the tallest mountains on Earth. And those mountains are going to change everything. Because when you raise up land, you change the air. You cool the planet. You shift wind patterns and rainfall. Entire ecosystems evolve or vanish in response. You climb a grassy ridge and feel that cool wind firsthand. It carries the scent of something ancient, glacial whispers from a future still a ways off. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. Some of the world's earliest grasslands are starting to form during this period, driven by those cooling trends. And grass, believe it or not, is kind of a supervillain. Once it spreads it out, competes forests, reshapes herbivore diets, and even grinds down the teeth of unsuspecting grazers with tiny silica blades hidden in its blades. Sneaky stuff. You sit in a field of it now. Not quite the wheat and lawn grass you know, but tough, wiry ancestors. In the distance, a herd of three-toed proto-horses grazes nervously their legs. Slender, their bodies built for running away fast. And they'll need that speed, because the predators are adapting too. You hear the whoosh of wings overhead, and glance up to see a massive terror bird coasting above the field, beak like a pickaxe, legs built for sprinting, eyes locked on the ground below. It circles, then glides away. You lie back in the grass, heart slowing. This is Earth's middle act, the weird phase, the transitional beauty, the post-extinction renaissance. The dinosaurs are gone, but their echoes linger in birds and reptiles in the way the wind rustles the trees. But the mammal, they're center stage now, and they're going in every direction evolution allows. Tall, furry, venomous, aquatic, gliding, predatory, playful. You watch a small primate swing across the treetops once more. This one pauses, looks down at you, blinks. A cousin millions of years removed. A whisper of what's to come. The wind has changed again. It's sharper now, laced with the smell of dust and pine. You stand on a wide open plain, stretching in every direction, dotted with golden grasses and low shrubs. Trees are fewer, smaller, spaced far apart. Gone is the jungle thickness of the Eocene. The Earth has opened up. You're in the Miocene now, roughly 10 million years ago. And it's starting to feel like something you almost recognize. The forests have thinned. The air has cooled. The shadows are longer, the skies clearer. And the grass. The grass is everywhere. You walk slowly through this vast savanna. Your boots stir up insects that hum and scatter like sparks. Herds of early antelope-like creatures graze nearby heads, jerking up now and then to scan the horizon. Long legs, wider eyes, muscles wired for flight, because this new world belongs to the runners. The Miocene is when the Earth doubles down on open landscapes. Forests retreat, grasslands spread, and mammals adapt in fascinating ways. Hooves get harder, legs get longer, noses get better at sniffing danger. It's a boom time for herbivores. You crouch as a group of sleek proto-deer gallops past, barely making a sound. One glances at you mid-stride, alert, anxious but not panicked. They vanish into the heat shimmer. And behind them, something faster. You hear it before you see it, the pounding of feet, low and rapid. Then the predator emerges. A saber-toothed cat, Machairodus. Maybe shoulders low coat, bristling fangs gleaming in the sun. It's not roaring. It doesn't need to. It's focused. Every movement is fluid, mathematical. But the deer are already gone. The cat exhales, growls once and slinks away. Even predators have to work harder now. You walk on noticing other changes. The mammals are taller now, leaner, built for distance. Grazers like horses, camels, and rhinos dominate the plains. Their teeth are more durable, adapted to grind down abrasive grasses, filled with microscopic silica. That's right, eating grass in the Miocene is basically like chewing sandpaper for breakfast. Historians still argue about what triggered the full explosion of grasslands, but the rise of mountain ranges like the Himalayas probably played a major role. They altered wind patterns, trapped moisture, and shifted the climate. The cooling trend continues. And with that, seasons become more pronounced. You find a wide river and follow it for a while. Birds wheel overhead, herons, storks, vultures. In the reeds, a small family of early apes watches you curiously. Their faces are expressive, their eyes deeply thoughtful. They cling to branches, chattering softly to one another, pausing to snack on figs. They're not you yet, but they're on the way. One of them, larger boulder, climbs down to the water's edge and watches the ripples. He pokes the surface, then looks at his reflection, blinks. It's just a moment, but it lingers. You sit by the riverbank watching dragonflies skim across the surface. The light catches them just right, iridescent wings flickering like tiny stained glass windows. It's peaceful until… crack! A branch snaps in the distance, not loudly, but wrongly. The herd animals jerk their heads. The apes scatter. Something is coming. You back up slowly as a deinotherium. An enormous shovel-tusked elephant relative trudges into view. Its ears are small, its head massive. Its tusks curve downward like upside-down scythes. It doesn't charge. It just stares at you with a gaze that says, "You're not important, but I'm watching anyway." You nod respectfully and let it pass. Here's a fun tidbit to tuck under your dream pillow. This period saw the rise of some truly bizarre mammals. Giant burrowing armadillo beasts, kangaroo-like rhinos, giraffe-antelope hybrids. Evolution was going wild, trying to fill every niche opened by the changing climate. And yet, amid all the novelty, a quiet truth hums beneath it all. Things are getting harder. The warm, steady climate of the Eocene is gone. The world is drier now, cooler, less forgiving. Food is more seasonal. Rain is less predictable. Extinctions aren't catastrophic, but they're constant, a slow attrition. You lie down in the tall grass, letting the breeze run fingers through your hair. Above you, clouds drift lazily across the afternoon sky. One of the apes has returned to the edge of the tree line. He sits quietly watching you, then looks past you toward the horizon, toward the future. Something's coming. The Miocene won't end with fire or ice, but with subtle shifts. Cooling trends that intensify, rainforests that shrink, deserts that creep. But for now, in this golden hour of mammals, there's still motion, growth, dreaming. You close your eyes and let the wind carry you forward. Because the next chapter is colder, and it has teeth. Your breath fogs slightly as you wake. That's new. The air is crisper now, dry and cool, tinged with frost even though the sun is climbing. You sit up on a snowy ridge and look around, blinking against the cold glare of the Ice Age. Welcome to the Pleistocene. This is Earth between two pulses, not glacial, not tropical, just balanced precariously on a thermostat that can't make up its mind. Massive ice sheets stretch across continents, grinding down mountains, sculpting valleys, swallowing whole forests. And yet, right here, you're in a patch of sun-drenched tundra grassland. The kind they call a mammoth steppe. You get to your feet and start walking. The ground is hard, crunching beneath your boots. Lichen, frost-coated grasses and dry soil dominate this world now. You can feel the difference in your chest, cool, thin air, and the stillness that carries the weight of waiting. And then movement. To your right, a woolly mammoth emerges from behind a snowy ridge. It's massive, covered in shaggy fur the color of burnt caramel. Its curved tusks arc forward like ivory sabers, sweeping with slow grace as it trudges toward a small herd. Each footstep thuds with purpose. Ice Age royalty. You pause and stare. It snorts, steam, blinks its long lashes and keeps moving, unbothered. Around it, a world built for giants. Towering megafauna fill the plains, woolly rhinos, their horns coated in frost. Giant sloths lumbering between trees. Short-faced bears, the size of minivans, sniffing the wind for their next unlucky meal. You duck behind a snow-covered boulder as one of those bears lumbers past its nostrils, flaring its breath, misting in long, slow clouds. This is Earth's great chill, but also one of its boldest experiments in scale. With more land exposed during glacial periods and cooler temperatures reducing overheating risks, mammals grow large, very large. And the predators, let's just say they were built to match. A saber-toothed cat, Smilodon, lurks nearby, crouched low in the snow. Its fangs flash as it yawns, then slinks away through the scrub. Not hunting just yet, just watching. And suddenly you realize something. You're not alone. Humans are here now, not in villages, not in cities, but close hidden behind rocks, nestled into caves, trailing herds across the ice and grass. You spot a small hunting party in the distance, wrapped in fur, spears in hand, eyes alert. They don't see you. They're watching the same mammoth you are, judging distance and terrain. This isn't a fantasy anymore. These are your ancestors. You step back into a stand of wind-bitten pine trees and listen. The world has a different sound now. Less roar, more whisper. And there's something else in the air, intention. These early humans aren't just surviving. They're planning, learning, whispering to one another in a language you don't understand but somehow feel. And you know they're going to change everything. Historians still argue how much blame humanity deserves for the megafaunal extinctions that follow. Was it hunting climate change? A combination. One theory suggests that as the Ice Age warmed and forests returned, the vast grazing plains shrank, and with them, the big herbivores. But another theory whispers we were the tipping point. And yet, we were also the storytellers. You duck into the entrance of a shallow cave and find walls covered in ochre and charcoal markings. Mammoths, horses, bison, stylized human hands. Someone was here. Someone watched the great beasts and tried to remember them, tried to honor them. You touch the cool wall gently. The pigment flakes beneath your fingertips. It's been thousands of years. But the story is still here. You step back outside. The wind stings your cheeks now. The sky above is wide and endless. You feel the weight of history pressing gently on your shoulders. Some of the megafauna will make it into human memory, into myth. Sasquatch, thunderbirds, behemoths. Others will vanish before the first stories are spoken aloud. But the Earth is changing again. Glaciers melt, rivers swell, coasts redraw themselves. The Great Freeze begins to retreat, and the forests reclaim what was once frozen silence. You crouch by a thawing stream and see a frog blink up at you. One of the survivors. Small, quiet, eternal. And you remember something frogs have been through every extinction event we've covered. They're still here because they don't need size or claws or tusks, just persistence. You stand again as birdsong echoes through the valley, a species of finch you almost recognize. Trees are blooming now ever so gently. The mammoths move north. The humans follow. The predators disappear one by one. And Earth exhales. But not for long, because something else is coming. Something faster, smaller, carrying tools, fire, language, farming. You blink. And the ice is gone. Not all of it, but enough. The towering glaciers have retreated into the far north. Rivers run free again, carving valleys and deltas across soft, wet earth. Forests return with quiet urgency. Grasslands grow tall. The mammoths are fewer now. The saber-tooths are silent. And the world feels warmer. But not just in temperature. Something else has entered the picture. You walk across a hillside that would look at first glance familiar. Oak trees, sparrows, deer nibbling at shrubs. You could almost believe you've walked into a forgotten nature preserve until you notice the edge of something square, something shaped, a human structure. You step closer and realize it's just a ring of stones. Once a fire pit, now cold and covered in moss. But around it the signs are clear. Flattened ground, buried tools, burnt bones. A camp. From not long ago. This is Earth's present age, the Holocene. And now the story isn't about who gets wiped out by nature. It's about who reshapes it. Because humans are everywhere. You follow a footpath through the trees. It's not paved, just worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air smells of soil smoke and something new, control. Fields appear in the distance cleared and carved into rows. Grains rise from rich dirt domesticated after thousands of years of selective patience. Farms, villages, fire rings, clay pots, civilization blinking slowly awake. And with this new world comes loss. At first it's subtle. Forests thinned for firewood. Wetlands drained. A species here, a bird there, a predator that wandered too close to the goats. But then the pace quickens. A frog that hasn't been heard in years. A bird that once nested everywhere. Now nowhere. You step into a field filled with tall yellow grass. It seems empty until you notice the silence. No crickets, no bees, just wind and wheat. You kneel and touch the soil, it's cracked and dry. Work too hard, left unhealed. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. We didn't need an asteroid. We became the asteroid. Historians still argue over when the sixth mass extinction truly began. Some say with the rise of agriculture. Others point to the Industrial Revolution. Others to the first species hunted to extinction. But they agree on one thing: we're in it. Right now, you cross into a mangrove swamp and feel the humidity rise again. The trees are gnarled and thick with roots, but some are chopped short. A faded plastic bottle bobs in the water. A heron stands nearby, one leg tucked close, staring into the distance like it's seen too much. You pass a coral reef bleached white like bone. Once it blazed with color. Now it sits in eerie silence. Fish swim by confused and sparse. The water feels too warm, too still. The oceans are changing. The air is changing. Species vanish before they're named. Others cling to remote cliffs and island outposts, ghosting through shrinking habitat maps. It's not one extinction. It's thousands, all at once, like a slow sigh unraveling across the biosphere. But not everything is gone. You sit beside a stream and watch a raccoon wash its paws. It doesn't care about history. It just wants dinner. A hawk circles above. A fungus grows across a fallen log. Life, despite everything, is still trying, still insisting, still doing. You walk into a city now. It grows around you almost silently. Concrete towers, electric hums, humans swarming across pavement in sneakers and rush hour grumbles. Parks with sculpted grass, rooftop gardens, children chasing pigeons. And somehow, amid all this glass and noise, life finds room. Green sprouts through sidewalk cracks. Owls nest behind neon signs. Foxes sneak through alleys at midnight. Whales sing through shipping lanes. Coyotes dance in suburban backyards. Even here, Earth whispers, "I'm not finished." You step into a museum. There's a hall of bones, mammoths, glyptodons, dodos, each one with a plaque, a story, a date of discovery, a date of extinction. You stare at the glass, your reflection blurred against the bones. Then you walk into another room. This one's still under construction. Endangered species, the sign says. There are no bones here, just shadows, empty enclosures, names, sounds. You step back outside. The sky is dusky now. The sun is setting behind distant hills, turning everything gold and pink and almost unreal. The breeze lifts your hair. Somewhere nearby, someone laughs. A dog barks. A bee buzzes past, completely unaware it may be one of the last of its kind. You close your eyes. The sixth extinction isn't fire or lava or asteroid. It's quiet. It's right now. But it's also not over, because the same species that caused it can stop it. Maybe not reverse everything. Maybe not bring back the mammoths or unbleach the reefs. But protect, restore, reconnect, rewrite. And you're part of that story too. Still writing, still dreaming. You stand at the edge of a cliff overlooking a planet that remembers everything. Below you, the land stretches out in a patchwork of forests, rivers, cities, deserts, and coral-fringed coastlines. Somewhere an elephant lifts its trunk to the sky. Somewhere else a frog croaks into the rain. A jellyfish pulses in a tide pool. A fox treads silently across snow. Life hums across Earth's skin like a song with 1,000 verses, most of them older than language. And you're still here. This is the Anthropocene, a name still debated, a time not yet formally defined but already unfolding, a chapter where you, the human species, have become a geological force. You breathe in the air thinner than it was maybe, but still sweet enough to fill your lungs. You crouch and touch the ground. It's warm beneath your palm, still turning, still alive. Around you, the echoes of 5 mass extinctions hum like distant drums. Trilobites, therapsids, pterosaurs, mammoths. Names written in rock and dust. Each one changed the course of evolution. Each one closed a door and opened another. And now, you're holding the doorknob. You walk a little farther down the path worn smooth by centuries of feet. Furred, feathered, booted bear. The plants lean in. The trees rustle softly. The birds go quiet as you pass, watching with glittering eyes. Because everything that comes next starts with what you choose. You step into a field. Butterflies flicker between the flowers. Not as many as there used to be, but enough to make a pattern. A memory. A promise. Overhead, a condor wheels in a thermal, its wings wider than your arms can stretch. And then a sound. It's not loud, not dramatic, just a small gasp of movement. You turn. There, beside a low hill, a pangolin shuffles into view. Its scales glint like bronze in the sun. It stops, lifts its head, sniffs the air. It sees you, and it doesn't run. It just watches. You kneel in the grass, holding its gaze. It's hard to explain, but in that moment you understand everything. Extinction isn't always fire and noise. Sometimes it's just no one left to see you, to remember you, to notice when you're gone. And life just wants to be noticed. You sit in the grass until the pangolin waddles back into the brush. The wind picks up. The light fades into that soft, honey-colored dusk that makes the world look like a painting someone forgot to sign. And as night begins to rise, so does the memory of all the life that came before. You hear it in the trees, in the ocean waves, in the quiet beat of your heart. The story of Earth is not a tragedy. It's a lullaby. And even in its darkest verses, life is always trying to find the melody again. You lie back in the field, eyes closed, breathing deep, listening to every whisper of every creature that ever was. And maybe, just maybe, they're listening back. So now, dear traveler, as your breath slows and your mind softens at the edges, imagine the earth beneath you, vast and ancient, wrapped in a blanket of stars. Its crust is quiet now, cool from fire and shaken free of dust. The winds that once carried volcanic ash now rustle through leaves carrying seeds, not soot. The oceans once choked in silence ripple gently with the motion of a billion tiny lives. Even the darkest places on the seafloor untouched by sunlight are still aglow with possibility. And high above, where ice once roared and comets screamed, clouds drift softly across a sky that has always been watching. The creatures of the past, those giants, those marvels, those oddities are not gone. They are folded into you, in your breath, your bones, your dreams. Every heartbeat is borrowed from something that survived before you. Let that comfort you. Let it settle over your skin like the weight of a warm blanket. The world has ended 5 times, and every time it has sung itself back to sleep. You are part of that song now. A quiet note, a curious lyric, a listener. And if tomorrow you open your eyes and notice the smallest flower, the softest feather, or the shimmer of something alive and ancient in the corner of your eye, remember this night. The earth is dreaming, and so are you. Good night.